Does doing NLP by yourself from a book actually work? Before I get into that, if you want to learn more about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and how to use it to improve your life, visit www.nlptimes.com. NLP is a brilliant technology for creating personal change. Since its creation in the 1970s, there has been no shortage of NLP self-help books. Some of the most popular and also recommended books include Tony Robbins' Unlimited Power, Awaken the Giant Within, and Dr. Richard Bandler's recent book, Get the Life You Want. All of these are good and many others also, but not everybody gets top results from every NLP book. So the question, does doing NLP by yourself from a book actually work, is a fair one. The answer is definitely yes, but it depends on 4 key things. 1. How well the author sets up and articulates the procedure to be followed. 2. Who is doing the following? I'm going to talk about that. 3. How well you can follow instructions. And 4th, what technique or process is the author trying to instruct you through, and what outcome are you trying to achieve? Let's discuss those in a bit more detail before I give you some tips on how to do this well. The first factor is pretty obvious. If the author has done a poor job articulating the procedure to be followed, then it will be more challenging to follow. Secondly, who is doing the following is key. NLP is very much about the study of subjective experience. That's a fancy way for saying how you use your mind and body to create specific results varies from person to person. No two people are exactly alike. If you're the kind of person who has an internal dialogue that natters on and always has to understand something before you can do it, or you're even willing to try, then you're likely going to have problems using the techniques from a book. Why? Because you will be trying to make what you've read fit into your understanding of the world and are less likely to just do what the author instructs. Some aspects of NLP, to someone who's very mind and logic driven and needs to understand everything first, may not make much sense. The learning, as we say in NLP, is in the doing. The idea, for starters, that changing how you use pictures, sounds, feelings, etc. can and does have a profound impact can be a bit hard to believe. We've been indoctrinated into this idea that change is a slow process and can only happen after you figure out the source of the issue, the why, so to speak, and that's just not true. If the person who's trying to follow the instructions is narrating on the inside of their head with stuff like, is this working, I don't feel anything different, etc., then what they're actually doing is interrupting the very process they're trying to affect. Think about it. A technique is like a recipe. If you're cooking a meal and while following the instructions you start adding in other ingredients that are counterproductive to the taste, or you decide to ignore other ingredients because you don't see the point or you don't like them, etc., then the meal you are trying to create isn't going to come out the same as the chef intended. In fact, you may have unintentionally screwed up the whole thing altogether. Thirdly, how well you can follow instructions is of critical importance. Part of how the processes of NLP work is that they are designed to move a person through an experience, a new or different way of thinking, seeing, feeling, etc. about a particular problem or situation. Therefore, the order of the sequence, i.e. make a picture first, then hear yourself say X, and the qualitative aspects, make the picture big, bright, bold, make the audio sound low, muffled, far away, have a key role in producing specific effects. Finally, the type or technique or process the author is looking to instruct you through and the outcome you're trying to use it for have a big role to play. For example, you may be using the wrong technique for the wrong outcome. On top of that, some techniques are designed to help you, for example, overcome trauma, get over a bad childhood, etc. Yet if the experience you're using is still very raw to you, and you're trying to use a technique in a book by yourself with no outside guidance and no prior experience with NLP, then your mileage is likely going to vary. Why? Because if you're in the throes of tears at even the thought of X event, then trying to get yourself to follow a set of instructions from a book without first establishing a resource state, for example feeling okay, etc., is going to be a difficult thing to do. For that, I definitely recommend outside assistance. So here are some tips on how to use the techniques of NLP from a book on yourself. Tip number 1. Go with the author's instruction. Follow exactly as the author instructs and in the order he or she specifies. Tip number 2. Quieten all unnecessary internal dialogue. This means that if you're in the habit of self-talking your way through a technique, zip it. Doing an NLP technique on yourself is not an intellectual, what would Socrates think kind of moment. After you've done the technique properly and gotten a result, then if you still want to go and self-reflect, you can, but it isn't required. Tip number 3, cut your cloth to measure. If you're just starting out using NLP with yourself, then pick minor incidences or issues or behaviours you want to change. Don't go and pick the most traumatic event of your life as goal number 1. Once you've gotten used to getting results and following the instructions, then you can move forward to bigger stuff you'd like to change. Tip number 4, a book does not replace a skilled practitioner. Some stuff like uncontrollable nightmares, rape, self-harming behaviours, etc. are not the kind of things I recommend you pick up an NLP book for necessarily. Especially if the experience is highly traumatic and still very raw for you. Go and find someone who's properly trained in NLP or a qualified therapist and have them assist you in making the desired changes. Okay, that's it for now. There's more that could be said, but you've got plenty to use. To learn more about NLP and enjoy several more free resources, please visit www.nlptimes.com.